everyone, and welcome to angelMD's Syndicate presentation for CNSDose. On the webinar with us today is one of our syndicate leaders, Dr. John Vanderzeel, a practicing family medicine physician in Houston, Texas, along with Dr. Harris Ayer, the Chief Medical Officer of CNSDose. CNSDose aims to fast-track finding the right antidepressant with advanced genetic testing and analytics. I'll now let Dr. Vanderzeel introduce himself as well as share with you his interest in CNSDose.
Hi, I'm John Vanderzeel. I'm an independent family physician in Sugar Land, Texas, which is a suburb in southwest Houston. I've been in practice for 24 years and I treat patients of all ages. Treating depression has historically been very difficult. The difficulty begins with the diagnosis and then sometimes convincing a patient to start a medication to treat this condition. You certainly hate to choose a medication that makes the patient feel worse, but that is often what happens with the trial and error approach to prescribing for depression. This approach often leads to non-compliance or at the very least significant delays in getting treatment results. CNSDose has an exciting approach to this problem, providing a scientific method for selecting the appropriate medication for a specific patient. The test results are provided in an easily understandable format that can be readily incorporated into the workflow of a busy physician to guide treatment. Please let me introduce the Chief Medical Officer for CNSDose, Dr. Harris Ayer.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vanderzeel and John. Thank you to angelMD for the opportunity to present today. At CNSDose, we aim to fast-track finding the right antidepressant in the right dose using advanced genetic testing, as mentioned before. At CNSDose, we have a sophisticated and experienced executive team. We have equal and extensive experience in executive management of early-stage healthcare companies, genetics, and also mental health. The problem, as you're all probably very well aware, is that depression is a major issue in America and also globally. Depression affects around 35 million Americans and is devastating to individuals, it's devastating to families, to communities, and to economies as well. A major issue. And there are around 40 million Americans on antidepressant medications, which is also a large issue. The problem with trial and error prescribing of antidepressants is that it is trial and error. It can take months, sometimes years to find the right dose, and it takes at least 3 weeks for you to determine the efficacy of an antidepressant medication. There are around 20 antidepressant medications on the market. It's complex to know which ones to choose. And you can imagine with every failure of a trial of antidepressant medications, the patient becomes more and more hopeless and despondent. And data shows that around 50% of antidepressants actually fail. So the current state of treatment is really inadequate, as Dr. Vanderzeel alluded to. The solution that we have at CNSDose is genetic guidance of this antidepressant prescribing process. What I'm showing here is our report that we have, which is what we can technically call a decision support tool. It's a way of providing the clinician with decision support. It's meant to be used for primary care doctors, primary care clinicians, and also psychiatrists. You can see the report is very well laid out. We've thought really hard about the design to make sure that the clinically actionable information jumps off the page. We provide dose and medication choice guidance, and it takes about 5 business days to get the results of this report back. At CNSDose, one of the things that we're most proud of is our world-class clinical trial evidence. We have the highest level of evidence in the field in this area. We have 2 clinical trials, both published in peer-reviewed literature. This particular slide outlines the results of our randomized controlled trial, which is the first and only positive randomized controlled trial in the field. We published this in middle of 2015. You can see in this slide that over the 3-month period of treatment with CNSDose guided prescribing versus trial and error, we had around a 2.5 greater chance of remission with the CNSDose technology. So that was a very statistically significant improvement. We found reductions in side effects with the CNSDose technology, and also a significant cost reduction in the cost of care for these patients that were treated with CNSDose versus trial and error. So very strong results. Now a little about what is proprietary and unique about our technology. Well, we have a Our technology understands the genetics of liver metabolism of these medications and also blood-brain barrier metabolism of these medications. The blood-brain barrier being the sac that surrounds the brain and determines what medications do or don't get into the brain. We have a patent position around our understanding of these drugs interacting with the blood-brain barrier, and our algorithm that takes liver and brain genetic data and turns it into the report is a proprietary algorithm that we keep as a trade secret. Our go-to-market strategy is multi-pronged. It includes integrated delivery networks, large systems, and we're proud to announce that we've done a contract with Intermountain Healthcare, which is a prestigious integrated delivery network in the US. We're also looking at a consumer access network to allow consumers easier access to our technology through doctors that are openly, wanting to use this technology and see patients with this technology. Channel partners and software integration partners is another go-to-market strategy with the likes of electronic health records. And we're also starting our worldwide growth in March of 2018, starting with Australia. So we have what we call a multi-pronged go-to-market strategy that we think is pretty effective. The market size, as I mentioned before, is very large. The good thing for us as a company is that the total addressable market is still very large. Obviously, there's a lot of societal burden of depression, but there is a lot of opportunity commercially for a technology like CNSDose to improve patient care. There have only been 1 million of these technologies sold, and tens of millions of total addressable market left. We have completed a soft launch this year, which was our process of optimizing our processes and procedures of the CNSDose company and with our business partners. What this meant as far as solid achievements for us was we established a lab partnership with a lab called Alpha Genomics based in Atlanta, Georgia, the largest genetics lab in the southeast of the US. We tested our distribution channels with inside and outside sales teams. We established our product market fit. We sought feedback from the market and gained market pricing intelligence and information. We developed our CPT code and billing protocols. Around 1,000 patients were tested through 500 clinics across the US in every state. The key learnings for us were that patients and doctors really like our report, that most clinicians also want a comprehensive panel for other genetic guidance of medication, so we're addressing that through a partnership with another solution provider. And also we found out that lab IT integration was quick and seamless, which allows us to onboard labs and hospital systems quite quickly. Key customers acquired, we're very proud to announce that we have a number of marquee customers. Intermountain Healthcare is a very large system, 4 million person integrated delivery network, and a very prestigious system. We also have adoption and contracting with likes of the Menninger Clinic, which is a very prestigious psychiatric hospital in Houston, UCLA, Baylor, and UT Health. Key partners, we have gone through the Texas Medical Center's Digital Health Accelerator program. We're working with Thermo Fisher Scientific on ways to speed the onboarding of new labs with our solution. Thermo Fisher is the largest provider of genetic testing machines in the world. So those are some of our highlight key customers and partners as well. Financial information, the highlights here is that we are projected to achieve cash flow positive position in October of 2018. And so far we've raised about $1.6 million of capital. We have strong metrics for growth in the future. We do intend to have solid financial projections regarding test volume specifically. This test volume projection is developed based off of a number of predicate companies in the field, so we're confident of the figures, and we of course have, as I mentioned before, a number of unique selling points over our competitors, including our clinical trials and knowledge of the blood-brain barrier. That links, the test volume links obviously to strong revenue in the future with year-on-year growth. Our fundraising, well, we're seeking to raise $3 million at a $12 million pre-money valuation, and that is in US dollars. We already have $900,000 of this in the bank, and we're processing now documentation for another $500,000. And today we just announced that we've received investment capital from the Texas Medical Center's Venture Fund, which is a very major deal for CNSDose. The close date of our round is middle of December 2017, so this year. And the point to make about use of proceeds, use of funds, is that the majority of the use of funds will be on operations, really to bring to life that go-to-market strategy that I mentioned before, including integrated delivery networks and consumer access network and other customers and partners for distribution. We also plan to, in addition to having our high-quality, best-in-class genetic guidance for antidepressant medications, we plan to have, we've started actually a product development pipeline for genetic guidance of other psychotropic drug classes like ADHD medications, mood stabilizers, and antipsychotics. And I'll leave you with a final slide. This is a quote from the Department of Veterans Affairs US review that they conducted on our field in the middle of last year. They said that CNSDose has the most favorable preliminary findings of any company in the field of genetic guidance of antidepressants, so we're very proud of that independent validation. So obviously, as I mentioned before, we're very glad to be working with angelMD. If you're not a member of angelMD, here is some information about where to sign up, and if you're interested or have any questions, please contact John Leader.
Yes, thank you, Harris. Appreciate that. And certainly, if you have not signed up, membership is free. It takes about 5 minutes and can be found there at www.angelmd.co/register. Additionally, the email address is there on the screen. If you have any questions when you're viewing this, either about the investment itself or about CNSDose as a company, please do send them my way. I believe we now have some questions here, and if I can get it started off for you. Harris, is there a predicate out in the market of a company that's had similar success in this digital health space that gives CNSDose a pathway to an exit?
Yes, there is. There's a company called AssureX Health, which has a product called GeneSight, which is was acquired in the middle of last year by Myriad Genetics for $400 million. And GeneSight was noted as the fastest growing diagnostic test in the history of medicine. And what this means to us is that there is now a really big interest. This is the first major acquisition in the field. There's now a really big interest by companies like Myriad and others like it in the lab services and diagnostic space. So it means we get a lot of attention from similar companies to Myriad that are looking to compete with Myriad. And we are, confident that the differentiators we mentioned before are robust, such as our clinical trial data that we have, our knowledge of the blood-brain barrier and the incorporation of the blood-brain barrier in our technology. And obviously, for us, the Intermountain Healthcare contract is a big stepping stone on the way to an exit, such as what I mentioned before with GeneSight.
And just for clarification's sake, do you have any FDA requirements or restrictions that you have to face going forward?
So there are relatively modest regulatory burdens for us regarding the FDA. So the way that our tests are regulated is as LDTs, or lab developed tests, and so there's no formal submission to the FDA. There's no process for that. We just have to be offering our test within a CLIA certified lab or a properly federally certified lab, which of course we do with the labs that we work with. So just to summarize, there's no FDA submission process, and we go to market as an LDT within these certified labs.
And I think, Harris, you mentioned that it's a simple buccal smear that requires any special training to collect.
Yeah, so it's a good question around the type of testing that we do. It is a buccal swab, a simple cheek swab, fast, easy, requires minimal training at all to collect that. We can have mid-levels collected. We can also have patients collect it themselves. We're cognizant of having patients collect it themselves in the case of a telemedicine scenario where the patient is remote and patients to collect it themselves because they can't get into a clinic.
What would you say the biggest hurdles are that you face right now, and how do you plan on addressing them?
So the biggest hurdles for us, one would be getting into large opportunities for a company like us, and that's why we're very proud and fortunate to have that contract with Intermountain Healthcare, or the collaboration with Intermountain Healthcare, because it demonstrates to other large IDNs or physician groups or ACOs or whatever that we've gone through a very rigorous, extremely rigorous due diligence process and onboarding process with Intermountain Healthcare. We've been vetted extremely to an extremely high level, so that that now we can use to open up other larger opportunities. So that's a hurdle for us, is getting these big opportunities. The second hurdle is the time that it takes to get doctors to change their behavior, to incorporate new technologies into their practice. We recognize, so it's important for us to understand what is it about our technology that may be creating a little friction for the doctors to incorporate into their workflow and their day-to-day practice, and we need to ensure that we mitigate that. So we're very, very careful when we go into practices and hospitals that we're making it fit into the workflow as seamlessly as possible, such as having a one-page report is an important way to do that. Having very fast, seamless IT integration is important. Having the opportunity for rapid education of doctors through webinars, through CNSDose is important, and ultimately to have partnerships with telemedicine companies, for example, which allow patients to access our technology regardless of where they live in the country, and regardless of who their normal doctor is. They can receive our technology through telemedicine providers where the doctors there are very much wanting to use the technology that we have. So the other final point is that implementing a precision medicine program through a health system is another way of supporting the doctors to change behavior and making it happen at a system-wide level.
My experience is that the ease of interpretation of the results that I see and the 5 business day turnaround will be a significant improvement from the testing that's out there now. So I'm excited.
Can you address your relationship with the military to date, and how, with the high rate of mental health issues that veterans deal with, how CNSDose could potentially factor into that?
Yeah, well, that's a huge area of need. We know that there are a lot of mental health issues within the Department of Veterans Affairs Health Administration and the Department of Defense health systems. There's a lot of trauma and mental health issues. There's about a 60% rate of antidepressant use, so it's a huge problem, and so we recognize that. We know that the Department of Veterans Affairs is looking at CNSDose very carefully, because we have that independent validation from them that they publish in their report, and we're starting conversations with the VA to get contracts and opportunities to offer our technology to their patients. We're also talking with one of the Air Force bases as well through the Department of Defense up in California. So we're definitely aware of the issues there. We're aware of the opportunity for CNSDose, and we're working on it actively.
See if we have any more questions. As far as your exit and then the future, can you talk about kind of the timing, pathway, and who you think a likely acquirer might be?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, there's the predicate exit in our field of AssureX to Myriad Genetics. So, we think that potential acquirers for us, as I mentioned before, are lab service companies, diagnostics companies, the likes of Quest, LabCorp, just as examples. would be the most likely acquirers, we think, or their global counterparts. For us, an exit would, for our planning of the evolution of our company, we think about 24 to 36 months is a reasonable timeline for exit. And the things that we want to do between now and then, one is to really make sure that we fully embed the CNSDose first antidepressant technology into the market, get into a secondary market of Australia, and then ensure that we have completed the vast majority of our product development pipeline so that we have other proprietary, high-quality, evidence-based technologies that we can roll off the shelf into the market that have been vetted by the clinical community and are being used by the clinical community. So those are the sort of things that we want to achieve before exit.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Harrison. Thank you, everyone for watching tonight. And again, if you have any other questions, please feel free to send them my way on the email there on the screen. We appreciate your time, and we look forward to you investing with us. Have a good day.